find someone that aligns with your nutrition values, but also in that practical sense, what your aims are for the
is stuck in the shoulders, and if they can't physically feel or see that the horse is stuck in the shoulders, then they've been taught to apply more pressure. Well, when you apply more pressure to a horse...
Welcome everyone to episode 134 of the Sen Nutrition Podcast. You're with your host Brian today, and today I have a very special guest. It is Tanja KRAUS from Tanja KRAUS Horsemanship, and today we'll be talking about her new third book release in the series Lessons from Horses. We'll also have an update of the clinics and what she has been up to this year, and we'll go through some of the approaches and training in her clinics, and also touch on the completion of a trauma-informed horse trainer certificate that Tanja just underwent. And finally, we'll touch on Equitana, which is coming up in less than a month's time. How are you, Tanja?
I am thrilled to be here yet again. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think it's your third time from memory.
Yeah, I was saying to Phil this morning, I said, I know I've done it a couple of times. I don't know whether this is 3 or 4.
Yeah, and I think it's a good segue into announcing, or it has been launched already, into your third book in the Tanja KRAUS series of Lessons from Horses.
Yeah, very excited about this one. This one's called Movement. So, yeah, as you said, it's the third in my series, and the series is destined to be 7 books. So wow. This is number 3. Yeah.
How long did it take to write this one?
Look, I write very frequently anything from a, short little thing for a Facebook post to articles for magazines and things like that. So I write a lot over time, and then that becomes sort of the skeleton for the book, if you like. That becomes like I collect all of those bits and pieces and articles, and then they get expanded out into what you would call an evergreen, so a larger, chapter or passage on that particular topic. So what I do is I actually usually book a hotel room and I lock myself away for about 4 days, and that's when I bring the whole book together, and I pretty much at the end of 4 days or a week, depending on how big the book is and how much actual writing content there is, by the end of a week, I've got something that I can start really editing and working on.
It's a fantastic series of books, because I think the first 2, one's called Perspectives, the next one's Enlightenment, and even the graphics on the front, is that Beth's work?
It is Beth's work.
Yeah.
She is absolutely amazing. She brings all of my wackadoodle ideas to life.
And this one on movement, does that give an insight onto your experience with how and why horses should be moving each day?
Yeah, pretty much. So this is the first book that has actual exercises in it for people to follow and do. So it's got over 100 exercises, and that is over 3 different styles of movements, which I call passive movement, ground exercises to do on the ground with your horse, and then ridden exercises. And they all come from the principle of knowing that our domestic horses' movement patterns are often far removed from their wild counterparts. And so we know that this is causing a lot of mental and physical health issues in our domesticated horses. And so I wanted to write this book to give people ways and means to sort of get their horse exploring or using their body in a full range of motion to keep them happier and healthier, both mentally and physically, because there is a huge mental aspect to them not being able to move the way that they do in the wild, and that often results in stereotypic behaviours like, we've seen them crib biting or weaving or pawing or, all of those things that they do, that domestic horses do. And, I wanted to put something out in the world to help people understand a little bit more about that comparison. So there is a whole chapter in there called Domestic versus Wild, and it outlines all of the different differences, I guess, that domestic horses face, like what happens in the wild. For example, we know in the wild that horses travel up to 30 kilometres per day, whereas our domestic horses are often kept in a little half-acre paddock, and they've got water right there, and their owner comes every day, maybe twice a day, and throws a bucket of feed at them, and if they're not taken out to be worked or ridden or moved in some way, that's really all they do is just stay in that little paddock. So at best they might be covering a kilometre or two. That's a far cry from 26 kilometres that they've been map doing on a daily basis.
And I think when you look at even crossing disciplines from, say, a thoroughbred racehorse into an off-the-track discipline, is that sort of in that theory of different muscles being worked for that different discipline?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and every industry, racehorses is a really good industry because it has been around for such a long time, and we have seen, you watch the movie Far Lap and you see him galloping that horse up sand dunes and things like that, which is a fundamental part of that horse's training was lots of different terrain and lots of different like uphills, downhills, through sand, over big areas, and then through, I guess, kind of like the commercialism. It was always commercial, but I guess through the commercialism or people wanting to pump out more racehorses more quickly, we started coming out with ideas about, well, it's easier for the trainers if we keep them all in boxes, and then we only take them out and we put them on the horse walker for 15 minutes, and then they get sprinted for 20 minutes, and then they get put back in the boxes and things like that, and it's all on a flat track, and then they get fed high octane fuel, which isn't good for the horse. I mean, you obviously could speak to that a lot more proficiently than I could, but that's the other thing. We take these domestic horses and we feed them McDonald's, and then we don't let them move, and we wonder why they are, fat, developing laminitis, developing other physical issues, not living as long as they could, and certainly, like I keep coming back to, the mental issues. So, yeah, the racehorse industry is really interesting to see the pattern where, a movie or a training aspect of a horse like Far Lap all those many years ago, and then we sort of over-commercialised it where there was lots of restriction, and you've seen even horses that were only running like the one way because they were only running one direction on the track, so they were only trained in that one direction, and it made them very asymmetrical and all of those things. And now you've got the opposite happening. We're almost doing a full cycle where they are doing cross training, and have been for, the high level trainers. I've been hearing the high level trainers talk about cross training. They've got people doing show jumping on their racehorses. They've got people doing dressage on their racehorses, because a well balanced, good functional moving horse is of course going to be faster and fitter and healthier.
Yeah, and I think for our listeners to give some background of the way Sen has connected with Tanja is back in the Cowgirls Gathering. They had that off the track thoroughbred race to ranch series. Yeah, that's right. And we were looking at supporting that event, and Tanja's name was put forward to me, and we had a good chat about nutrition and what she wanted to achieve for the horse in a more holistic way as the horse has come off the track and was like letting down. And ever since then, that's 2 or 3 years ago, it's really 3 years ago now. Yeah,
it was 2021, and this time of year, October 2021, yeah.
Yeah, and we're still connected, and in a very good way, because you display our philosophies in feeding that more holistic, more natural way, and have got the results with your own horses. And yeah, we're just really appreciative of your recommendations, because we come from an alignment of looking at how nature intended our horses and looking to nature for the answers in terms of what their instincts are, but then working with them for that chosen discipline, which you specialize in a lot of disciplines. Normally that sort of dressage, the cowboy dressage discipline.
Yeah, so we have, I personally do cowboy dressage and ranch. And my husband does ranch, cowboy dressage, and he does a bit of ranch roping as well. And we also do, the pleasurable going out and hacking our horses along the beach and going out in the forest and working around the farm. And We do a bit of colt starting and stuff like that. So, yeah, we've got pretty well-rounded horses. And then for my students, I've got students from, camp drafting to English dressage to hacking to more Western style events. Yeah, we cover it pretty much. I think I've taught someone out of every discipline over the years for sure.
And you've competed overseas as well with cowboy dressage, as I understand.
Yeah. We competed from 2015 was our first year of competition over there in the World Finals, and we competed every year right up until COVID. And then we took a couple of years off, and we went back in 2009, 20, maybe it was 21. It might have been just before Cowgirls. I can't remember. 21 or 22, we went back and competed, and we're hoping to get back again next year.
Oh, fantastic. And what's that experience like for our listeners?
Look, it's really interesting. America does everything on such a grand scale because of their population. They just have so many more people there. So everything, you go to a world final show and the first show that we went to, I think it went for 5 days and, so we're all on this property and the property's called Rancho Murrieta. It's got 4 indoor arenas and 4 or 5 outdoor arenas. So there's like 7 or 9 arenas in total just in the area that Cowboy Dressage is using. And then out the back on a connected but a completely separate area, they've got, they actually run like the cutting futurity or something on the same weekend as Cowboy Dressage. So you've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of horses on this site, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Like it is just such a big grand scale. And we had 5 days of competition for Cowboy Dressage. And as I said, even within the Cowboy Dressage fraternity, there was probably 200 people. I think they had like 600 entries or 400 entries or something like that. And that's a couple of hundred people on site with their horses. So it's huge.
They don't do anything by halves over there. And I think the enormity of the horse population, from my understanding, is that the total amount of horses in Australia totals the amount of horses in California alone. So,
yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I don't know those numbers, but that would not surprise me at all.
Yeah, there was some statistic I was looking up the other day, and I think even coming back to your book now with that movement, I think that's a great, as you said, a good practical application to anyone wanting to sort of focusing on the movement and the structure of the horse. How do we get the book, Tanja?
Oh, it's available on my website, which is horsemanshipforperformance.com. Yeah, that's how you can get it on there, and that the price, you'll click on it, and the price that's on there includes the postage Australia-wide.
Yeah, fantastic.
And it's absolutely for anyone with a horse. And I know it's my book, and I know it sounds like I'm just saying it to get people to buy it, but I've got 3 books available, and this is the one that I would recommend that anyone that looks at a horse should have this book, because it's got that. Like I say, it gives you a little bit more understanding into what our domestic horses, and people say, oh, but they've been domesticated for X amount of time. It doesn't matter. We're still seeing on a daily basis, we still see these issues of horses, pacing fences and doing things like that because they're just not moved. And there is really simple things that you can do, which are going to contribute to the soundness and longevity of your horse, which means, less vet bills, and longer lifespan.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll put a link to that in our show notes for this podcast. And coming up to Christmas, I think that's a very good timing, Tanja.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I think when I spoke to you last on the previous book launch, or I think it was at Cowgirls Gathering, the font in the book you've even taken care of as well. It's not the smallest font. It's like a very easy to read book.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And I do get a lot of comments about the font because it is nice and easy to read. I think it's at size 14.
Yeah, nice.
So most people are able to read it without glasses, yeah.
And so this year with your clinics that you've done, I think you've been travelling a fair bit from my understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great year. I'm excited to be pretty much back on track. I haven't been able to get back to New Zealand yet, which is unfortunate, and we didn't do America this year, but we're hoping to get back there. But as for the Australian side of things, yeah, it's been a beautiful full year, and I've been back on the road travelling, and I'm in the middle of planning my 2025 calendar. So if anyone wants to host me, then they need to message me now so they can secure some dates. But yeah, no, it's been a great year actually. It feels a little bit more, back to a bit of normalcy.
And with your clinics, are the students from many disciplines, or do you make it sort of discipline focused?
It depends. So we will do clinics, for example, I'll do a clinic on cowboy dressage, and then that attracts people that want to obviously pursue that sport. I've done clinics on ranch, so that again attracts those people that want to pursue that sport. But then I also might do a clinic that's like a liberty clinic, and then that is open to anyone of any discipline. You just need a horse to come along. And then I might do clinics on things like balance and transitions, or collection and engagement, or foundation work, or something like that. So again, it is very, balance and transitions. Every single person in every single discipline needs improved balance and transitions. We all need horses that are balanced underneath us, no matter whether we're chasing a cow one day or whether we're trying to perfect a 10-meter circle in the dressage arena. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, there's definitely most of my clinics cater to everyone, unless they're discipline specific. Then obviously they attract the people that want to particularly pursue that discipline.
And when a student does go through the clinics, can you think of one that's had like a rewarding transformation, or that you've seen? You can give an example of the development from your clinic.
What I focus on a lot in my clinics is helping people communicate with their horse better in a way that their horse can understand. Yep. And I also give insights into like the psychology and the body language that the horse is showing, so we can try and understand where the horse needs help. Fundamentally, horses want to get along. Their very nature is to be socially calm and socially, getting along. And so unfortunately, a lot of our more traditional training, and I certainly came up through traditional training where, I was told all the time that, like, don't let him get away with that, or, he's taking the mickey out of you, or he's just doing that to do this to you. And so you're educated from a real combative type of perspective, whereas, that's not how it is at all. Like, most of the time I'm saying to someone, can you see that the horse is doing this in his body? That means that he's, maybe it'll be physical, where the horse will be stuck in his shoulders or stuck somewhere and the horse can't actually do the maneuver. So you've got a person, either riding or on the ground. Let's say they're trying to do a haunch turn and the horse is stuck in the shoulders. And if they can't physically feel or see that the horse is stuck in the shoulders, then they've been taught to apply more pressure. Well, when you apply more pressure to a horse that's stuck in the shoulders that already can't move his shoulders in a direction that you're asking him to go, what happens is he will rear up, or he will do something to try and do something because he's stuck in the shoulders. And so often, it's like, see, he's rearing because, he just doesn't want to do it. And it's like, well, no, he's rearing because you put that much pressure on him in a way that he couldn't move, that he felt like he needed to, not even explode. He just needed to lift himself out of that situation to move, because you were just demanding that he move. And so once people get to see or feel where the physical body of the horse is, and they can then say, oh, I feel like he's stuck in the shoulders. If I just rock his weight back a little bit, then he's able to take that step. And that leads to some really amazing and profound, people going home empowered because they've got a new outlook on their horse, and they maybe are taking a horse home that they thought was a total jerk, and they're realizing, no, my horse actually tries really hard for me all the time. So that can be really cool. And then it also results in them being able to fast track their progress so much more, because they're able to recognize As I said, that was a physical example. Sometimes you might have a mental example where the horse is struggling to understand what you're asking it to do. And so I spend time helping people help the horse, basically. And again, it results in a horse that becomes or remains more engaged in the conversation or in the training practices rather than adopting a coping mechanism where they do go into shutdown or they go into explosive behaviour. And again, we've been told that the horse being shut down, or he's just ignoring you, and we don't realise that that's a horse actually just trying to protect himself because you've overwhelmed him so much that he doesn't know what else to do other than just go still, which is a freeze response. And so he's doing that because you've pushed him again that far. So some horses will freeze and some horses will fight, both of which are totally normal reactions. But we've been taught to believe that that's the horse being combative instead of understanding, whoa, I've put so much pressure on this horse that he thinks he's going to die. And now he's gone into limp mode, basically. So we have had some absolutely amazing results with people with horses with, for example, separation anxiety, that they couldn't even, take the horse away from its friends like 3 or 4 meters, and now they're out trail riding on their own and things like that. And it's very rewarding, remarkable stuff.
That's a great insight, Tanja. And when you look at understanding that training philosophy of patience, kindness, if any of our listeners want to hear a bit more of Tanja's theory, on her Facebook page, she does, and actually on Instagram as well, she does go into a lot of these topics. And I just pulled up one now, the slow and steady versus get it done. And that also, as I'm reading, it says it comes from an understanding of getting the common ground between those two to go at the horse's pace. If you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so it really, I put another one up this morning, actually. I've been working with my 2 youngest horses. Boogie is on 6 months rest. I wanted to give her a break. She's been on the road with me for quite some time now, and so I've just turned her off on a little vacay, and I'm refocusing my attention on my young horses. So I've got Safi, who's a 3-year-old quarter horse, and I've got Angel, who's rising 6, I think, year-old paint mare. And Angel's come from a really traumatised background, really traumatised history, and she was actually going to be shot by the person who had her because she was, quote, a crazy idiot. I won't use the profanities that they use, but, she was crazy, something wrong with her, et cetera, and then you've got Safi, who was bred to be someone's dream horse, and the lady didn't want to part with her, and so had raised her so lovingly and so exposed, like she really was part of the family. So Safi is so bold and so into everything because she was raised where she was allowed to be curious and allowed to be into everything, whereas Angel has experienced the total opposite. And so both of those horses learn in different ways and at different amount of time, and both of them are super smart, but you have to figure out, it's like kids, we're learning now that every kid's different and every kid needs to be taught in a different way. And just because you were told at school, 30 years ago that you were in the dumb class doesn't even mean that now we realise that those kids weren't even dumb. They just weren't able to be taught in the way that the mainstream school system worked. And I think we need to take the same approach with horses. Like, both of those horses are so different, and I'm bringing them both on to be ridden under saddle. But Angel's got so much trauma that I've got to overcome and build trust and stuff with her, whereas Safi's she's overconfident because she's been, in amongst people all the time. So she's really bold and she's a little bit pushy, and so she needs different communication than Angel does.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that as well in terms of nutrition theory for horses. And you might get 2 horses side by side. One could be an easy keeper, one could be a hard keeper, and that's kind of recognizing their metabolic sort of processes due to various factors in their history. And as a horse owner, you have to understand, as what Tanja just outlined, that you need to see how quick they can learn and I guess unlearn their previous disciplines. But when it comes to nutrition, it's another overlap to that, and understanding what makes them tick, or what response you want from them with their energy, their behavior, the way their whole digestive tract is designed, and trying to nourish that fully. But it's all coming down to those foundations of nature in terms of what their physiology is built for. But I 100% agree with you in terms of that children analogy, that we are now realizing that if the child didn't flourish in the education system, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not set up for life, or that they're going to fail at life, because they've got strengths in other skills going forward outside the education system.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting that you should talk about that in regards to the nutritional needs of the horse, because it's what I find fascinating in comparison with Angel and Safi is that Angel is the horse that is quite, she's quite a stress head, and she's quite anxious, whereas Safi's the bold, sort of confident one. But nutritionally at the moment, Angel is the one that I have to watch her weight, because she actually is a really easy keeper. She gets massive at springtime now, whereas Safi is not as easy to keep. She's actually a little bit, I wouldn't call her light on. She's not light on, but she certainly needs, added nutrition, which obviously she's a 3-year-old. She's still growing, but Angel's still, she's only 5, so they're not that far apart. But usually what I see is the anxious horses require so much more food, because that anxiety is burning calories all the time through those, they're usually the ones running the fences or pacing, or they're just spending more time looking around than actually eating grass. Then, that's even something that's really a small thing that people don't realise is, horses are made to eat grass, 16, 18 hours a day. So if you've got a horse that's like my big Galliano, we always call her the giraffe, because she sees everything before anybody else. But Galliano used to spend heaps and heaps of time in the paddock just looking around, looking at everything. And so while she was looking, she wasn't eating. So she might only be eating 10 hours a day, and the requirement's 16. So you've got to start thinking that anxiety is contributing to her being, more underweight or requiring more calories or whatever.
Yeah,
but it's not the case with Angel and Safi. Angel is, although she's not too anxious in the paddock, but she is definitely she's the bossy britcher. She's got to sort of control everyone and push everyone around, which again requires a little bit more calorie input. But that's why I love obviously what you guys do, because I can just send you the, I just say, this is how old the horse is, male or female, this is what I'm doing, etc., etc. Tell me what to feed and I'll feed it. And that's just simplified my life. I love that. And you obviously would know, I recommend all of my clients to do it all the time, because I'm like, you've got to get this feed. You've got to get this feed right. And sometimes people waste so much time and money because they go and, I don't want to throw shade on like the feed store industry, but what I'm going to say is I used to work at a feed store, and so we used to get educated by feed companies who would come in and they'd give you a day's training on their particular product. And then they also would maybe give a special deal on that product. So for like a month, we would push that product. But then the next month, a different feed company would do the same thing. And this happens across every cat food, dog food, everything. So then you would be pushing that product. So you've got these poor people that are coming into the shop and they're saying, oh, I'm here for this, or my horse has lost weight, or my horse is this. And they're just being directed to whatever's on special that month, whatever feed company's fresh in that person's mind, or whatever. And often they're being directed to, let's say, really high calorie feed. I remember when I was a young woman and I had a off the track thoroughbred, and he was quite anxious, and I was struggling to put weight on him, and I was directed to racehorse feed. Well, within 2 weeks, the horse was completely unrideable because the anxiety was the thing that was keeping him underweight. And so all the rocket fuel did was make him more anxious because he had more energy and no way to expel that energy. And so it didn't actually put weight on. It actually made him lose weight because he had more energy to do the stupid behaviours that the anxiety was causing. And what I needed to do was probably put him on something like Sen, which wasn't available when I was 20, but, that was natural, that wasn't putting him on this artificial McDonald's, and that was actually supporting his gut and supporting his system naturally, and then working on his mental health. And those two things in combination would have been the solution to actually getting this horse to gain weight. And that's probably the hard thing that I struggle with. I have lots of people come to me, and like I say, I send them straight to you. I say, go and do what they say. Like, they're not just going to try and upsell you feed. They're going to give you the feed that is for that horse's needs. But unfortunately, then they go to the feed store and say, oh, I'm here to get Sen XYZ. And they'll go, oh, we've got this other product that they've said's the same. And I'm like, it's not the same. Please don't listen. Hold your ground. Just buy Sen. Please just buy what they've told you to buy, because we're going to be having this conversation in 3 months, and you're just going to waste 3 months of your life.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyways, I'll step down off my soapbox.
No, it's well explained, and those examples are very warranted, because at Sen, yes, we are a feed company, and we do over 100 diet consults a month, and we offer this as a free service because what we've recognized is there is so much chaos and noise in the industry, and for us, we don't want you guys to over supplement or overfeed. We want to get their foundations right, and every single diet that comes through, we don't talk about the feed first, we don't talk about the supplements first, we talk about the foundation of roughage in the ground, the pasture, the hay type. And all we're doing is looking to balance this in the most natural way and have a reason for each component of the feed program and the diet to be fed. So you may add our hard feed. Why are we adding this hard feed? It's to balance the shortfalls in the roughage, because your discipline, or the horse's chosen discipline, requires that amount of, say, zinc, copper, protein, fiber to give their body systems the best setup to thrive in that discipline. And as Tanja has probably outlined even there, we take the time through caring about the horse at the end of the day, because I always picture myself as the customer or as the client looking for answers, and we do it practically. If you want to keep something in the diet you really like, we can do that, and we can work around that, and understanding that natural hindgut physiology of the horse that can't be shocked when you transition feeds. It can't be like cold turkey. It has to be a gradual thing. Otherwise, you will run into metabolic issues or digestive upsets, and even worse, colic. But we've got some good resources in our podcast that goes through this, and I think it's a couple of episodes back that actually it could be the last episode about transitioning feeds and trying to sort the fact from the fiction that's out there. And as Tanja says, if you are confused, we've got that booking system on the website, and you can just book in our time slots. We've even got weekend openings as well because of the demand. And yeah, we'll go through it, and we're not trying to ram products down your throat. We're trying to get to the bottom of the puzzle pieces required for your horse to thrive.
I can definitely vouch for that, in that I know when we were trying to balance up ginger coops, and I know when I've spoken to you about other horses before, if I've rung you and said, this horse is I want to put more weight on this horse, the first thing you say to me is roughage. Yeah. You don't say, buy my extra Sen, feed extra Sen. You never say that. You always say, okay, we need to up the roughage and see how that goes. So that's definitely, and that's why I know that you guys are genuinely for the horse. Like, yes, you're making excellent product and all of the rest of it, but you're also not trying to get people to use as much of that product so they just have to buy more and more and more. You're literally trying to look after the horse. And we've got 12 horses on site now. We've got an Agiste here, or a teenage girl who has her 2 horses here. And so we've got 3 off-the-track thoroughbreds, because her 2 are off-the-track thoroughbreds, and I've still got ginger coops. So we've got 3 off-the-track thoroughbreds all the way through to paint horses. We've got a 12-month-old filly, nearly 3-year-old, 5-year-old, and then we've got, 10, 11, 12-year-olds and the off-the-track thoroughbreds, and all different breeds. And our base feed is the CF50 pellet, because that's for our vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. And they all get fed pretty much the same thing as a base feed, and then I just add different supplements depending on who has what requirements. Although because they all do live in a herd, we've just had them all on Sen Gold for, I don't know now, probably up to 6 months, because obviously it's not going to even hurt. It doesn't hurt the little ones, even though the Sen Gold would probably point it more towards like George, who's 21, just to support his joint health and stuff like that. But now we've just transitioned. We're putting them all on extra balance because we've got spring grasses and stuff like that coming through. So I feel like they're all going to need that gut support. So, and I've already noticed, because Boogie's been on that now for Boogie, for people who are listening who don't know who she is. She's a paint mare, but she's primarily white. And she's got a big pink, she's got lots and lots of pink skin. And so in this springtime, she often gets, it looks like sunburn. So it's sort of like sunburn, but it's from like the grasses irritating her nose. So she gets like a really inflamed, really pink nose, and then some crusty bits on the nose and on her eyelids and stuff. So I've brought her in and put her on extra balance. And within 4 or 5 days, her nose has gone back to a really nice, beautiful soft pink colour. It's no longer inflamed. And so, yeah, we love the stuff.
Yeah, and in that example, the Sen Extra Balance is really helping that digestive system and the digestive environment, and 70% of the immune system is in the digestive tract, and that's helping regulate that reaction that Boogie was getting and really helping it. But Tanja knows our products inside out, so she doesn't message me as much anymore.
Well, I'm always, I mean, I do get people to, I always recommend the feed and what you do, the feed analysis and the analysis of the horse.
Yeah.
But I've been recommending a lot lately the Extra Balance. I actually recommend it for behavioural issues as well, because often the behavioural stuff is coming from these really sugary spring grasses that are coming through at the moment. So that's often upsets the tummy, and then the tummy upsets the mind. And so I do recommend it for behavioural issues, and we're having heaps of success with it in regards to itch, which is really cool.
Yeah, it is one of the best-selling digestive supplements in Australia. And when we look at, I guess, the whole Sen feed program, it is a more raw and pure way of feeding. As Tanja outlined, we look at the foundations first, and if you guys are first-time listeners or you want any advice in regarding to feeding, you can just simply reach out or head to our website. We've got that booking link, and as we said, it's no obligation. I think we'll move on to our next part of this podcast in terms of, Tanja, I see that you've recently completed a certificate in being a trauma-informed horse trainer.
Yes.
Which is very exciting.
I know, it's very cool, because I, for a long time, I have, I guess, specialised in taking on horses that have been struggling. And so I wanted to educate myself a little more. So when I saw the course come up, I jumped straight on it. I wanted to educate myself a little more formally, I guess, because I've done a lot of my trauma-informed training had been literally just dealing with horses that were suffering with, and generally it comes from behavioural issues, because that's when the owner, it usually becomes an extreme behavioural issue, and then the owner gets to the point where it's kind of a last resort, and they'll generally, call a horsemanship coach of some description. We're typically known for troubleshooting, if you like, with horses. Even though horsemanship's so much more than that, we do have a bit of a reputation as being able to help troubled horses. So, over the years, I've dealt with a lot of different really interesting, what I would call now trauma cases. And as I said, I've had to sort of work my way through that with my understanding of, I always come back to, it's interesting, you nutritionally always come back to the basics of roughage, and I, from a mental health perspective, always come back to the basics of our horse's needs, aka what does the wild horse do? It moves a lot, it lives in social environment, etc., etc. So I always look at the horse as a whole. So someone brings me a horse that has got a behavioural issue of some description, and I go, okay, tell me about where does the horse live? What do you do with the horse? How often are you working with the horse? Etc., etc. We go through all of that, and then I look for ways to improve those circumstances all the way from its environment all the way through into its training, and then what training or therapy, I guess you'd call it, that we can do with the horse to hopefully come out the other side.
It's definitely fascinating. And how long did it take to complete? So
I think it was a 10-week or a 12-week course. So I had to kind of work around being away at clinics and stuff like that. So I didn't get to do it as, like, every time a new module came out, I was kind of the straggler at the back of the pack, having to sort of play catch up and things like that all the time. So all of the lessons came out on like a weekly basis or something like that, for example. And then we had to do an assignment and lodge it. And then we had to present a case study in terms of how we had worked with a horse with trauma and how we had applied education that we'd just received onto that horse. So a lot of the people were like me, a lot of the students were like me that had already sort of been working with horses. Generally, the people that are attracted to a course like that have some experience with working with trauma horses. There were a couple that didn't, and so they had to kind of do mock-ups, I guess you would say. But most of us were dealing with, were able to present case studies of horses that we had actually worked with at the end, and thankfully I passed. So I'm super excited about that.
That's another string to the bow, I think.
Yeah, it's good. Like I said, it was good to get a formality. Yeah, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot from it, but it was good to get a formal sort of input in regards to what I had been doing.
Yeah, that's excellent recognition. And what we'll touch on is our Equitana, which is coming up to nearly a month exactly that we'll be there. And Tanja is joining us at our stall where she will have her books ready to go. And it's actually another good opportunity if you are going to Equitana and you want to talk to Tanja and also get one of her books or even get her to sign it. I think it's excellent access because with our Sen nutrition stand at Equitana, it's site 369, and the theme for us is we're going to have obviously our Sen products on display with our supplements so everyone can sort of look at them, discuss their needs for their horses, but it's all about collaboration for us in that event, and it's in the Exhibition Pavilion space, and we will have Tanja KRAUS and also her partner Phil Monaghan there with us on one side, and then we'll also have Project Hope Horse Welfare as well, which we're really proud to have both of these Sen ambassadors with us for the duration because they can also lead any clients that are looking into Sen, and because they've got an understanding of Sen, of the diets, that we will have that back up because we were overrun last year. But yeah, Tanja, we're really looking forward to having you with us, and thank you for your time that you're going to spend with us down there.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. I'm really excited. I am a bit of a chatty Cathy by nature, and I've always gone to Equitana. I enjoy, heading down there and meeting lots of people. I don't get to see a lot of Victorian people. Usually we might do a clinic or maybe one clinic a year, maybe two. But we do have a lot of people in Victoria that follow us. So Equitana is going to be a really great opportunity to catch up with old friends and make some new ones. And I love meeting people and chatting to them about their horses and what they need. So yeah, thanks for having me.
That's all good. And this wouldn't be the first time we did an event together because I think the last 2 or 3 Cowgirls gatherings we've shared stall by stall next to each other there. And I think you're well and truly versed and part of the Sen family as one of the leading ambassadors. So yeah, we can't thank you guys enough, and Phil too.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we're super excited to be there. I can talk underwater with a mouthful of marbles, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah, it's an excellent networking event because we were there last time with Guy McLean or under Guy's stall, and that was 2 years ago, and we were run over, or we were run off our feet then because we kind of underestimated the popularity of Sen. And as we roll into this next month, we're seeing that build up again with even inquiries now saying, are you going to be at Equitana? And we'll have a good media release to come in the next couple of weeks explaining the exact site that we have and It's going to be bigger and better than ever, as they said. And I think they've even expanded into the showground parts from 2022. So this is going to be a big one, as they've been saying.
Yeah, look, I think it really will be. 2022 was still coming off the back of COVID, so I think people were still a little bit hesitant. They were a little bit like, oh, is this going to happen? And a lot of people, had also been closed or not working or whatever. So financially it was a little bit more difficult for people to attend and probably more difficult for stall holders to be there. So I think everyone, 2 years later is revving and ready, and I think it's going to be a phenomenal event.
Totally agree with you, Tanya. And we just really like networking with everyone. Even if you don't feed our products, you can just come up and say hi. And yeah, we're there for the horse at the end of the day. If you need any advice, Peter and I are down there as well. And yeah, there's no dumb questions when it comes to looking after our horses in the best possible way, because what we want is the horse at the end of the day to thrive even better. And Sen has been around for over 10 years now, and we just keep building on that momentum. And I think it's probably safe to say that we've had a very good impact on horses' lives in Australia and have improved them from that standpoint even 5 years ago, when you look at the development and the research going into nutrition and also common conditions like ulcers and colic and hydration in horses and performance. So I think, yeah, definitely mark down site 369 to see Tanya and myself and the rest of the Sen team with Project Hope. And this, I think that brings us nearly to the end of this podcast, Tanya.
Yeah.
I've got one question. And I was talking to one of our clients the other day, and we were talking about connection with horses and trying to improve your connection with a horse. And I'll probably just ask this to you. This is a bit off the bat. If you have one piece of advice you'd give them to start on their journey with their horse, so say they've got their first horse, what would be the first piece of advice you'd give a new horse owner?
Oh my God, you're only going to give me one.
Just one.
Only one piece of advice.
Probably the first piece of advice you'd give.
The first piece of advice that I would give is find someone who aligns with the way that you want to do things with your horse, because it's kind of like parenting or having a dog or having, whatever. If you might be recommended a coach by, all like the people who influence you to get a horse, but you might go to that coach and feel uncomfortable or not really want to do what they're telling you to do if they're, telling you to do things that don't align with you. So find someone that does align with the way that you want to do things, and then, stick that out. I see a lot of people jump from ship to ship to ship to ship. So it's okay to jump around, but once you've found something that is in alignment, you've got to give it a chance to work. So that would be my first advice. Like, definitely, find someone to buddy up to who's gonna mentor you a bit.
And is that more so how, I guess, that training style to suit that particular horse, or is it a training style that aligns with your mind about horses?
I think what's going to happen first, and this is why I said you're only giving me one piece of advice. I think what's going to happen first is you're going to find someone who aligns with you specifically, because you, like, as a new horse owner, you might not know what the horse needs. But if you find someone who works with you or aligns with the way that you want to relate to your horse specifically, and you're sort of hanging in there for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, whatever, and if things are then not working, then hopefully that gives you the space to be able to say, maybe this horse needs a different approach. Maybe I need to do some investigation into what the horse needs. But if you're with someone who doesn't align with you, then, and it seems to be working with the horse, like, fine, if you can tolerate that, that's fine. But the problem is if it doesn't align with you, then you're not going to go home and do it. You're going to go, I'll just leave that for the coach to do. And then you're actually going to create more problems because you're going to be doing one thing at home and then the coach is going to be doing another thing at lessons. So the horse is going to become quite confused. So, yeah, ideally you want to find someone who aligns with you and is able to work with the horse and what the horse needs. But initially I think you just find someone who aligns with you and then you can have that space. I call it, you've got to get to space because there's so much information out there. You get you go to the tack store and they'll tell you one thing, and then you go to the feed store and then they'll tell you one thing, and then Joe Blogs down the street will tell you another thing, and then you go to Pony Club and they'll tell you something else, and new horse ownership can be so overwhelming that I think you just need to find that one beacon that you can kind of grab onto a little bit, and then they can guide you to the nutrition, and then they can guide you to the feet, and they can guide you to different places. And then if you sort of think in 3 or 6 months, I don't feel like the horse is comfortable, then at least you've got a little bit of space around you to make those decisions.
I think you just described some of the nutrition Facebook groups about everyone giving you advice. It's like, how long is a piece of string when you ask, what's the best feed to feed my horse? It's like
exactly, it's 100%.
You need to find someone that aligns with your nutrition values, but also in that practical sense, what your aims are for the horse at the end of the day, and be comfortable with that, and not copy for the sake of copying a friend's horse or like duplicating their feed, because your horse could be totally different with its needs and its metabolism and its history.
Absolutely,
it's so much crossover and overlap.
Oh, it's so amazing. And the thing that really resonated with me that you just said was your nutritional values. It's something that we don't talk about enough. And like Phil and I, we like to eat pretty healthy, and we've just discovered a new app. I've got a new app on my phone, and it scans the barcode of all of your food and it tells you what's in it, right?
Yeah, that's
and
good.
It's crazy what is in your food. And so we've started like not buying things and throwing things away. And this particular app does all your shampoos and soaps and all that as well, right? So there's all these carcinogenic stuff in your food and in your face cream and all of that sort of thing. And so, but that's our nutritional value, is to not put chemicals and toxins in our body. And that's, again, why I'm with you guys. That's the first thing I said to you when we were talking all those years ago at Cowgirls Gathering. I was like, look, I'm a bit of a hippie. I like to feed naturally, but that's what I do. That's how I feed myself as well, right? So I think that that's important, is that you do find that coach that aligns with, if you're a, quote unquote, a bit of a hippie and you want to relate to the horse with a bit of connection and stuff like that, then your nutritional values are going to be the same. You're going to want to feed that horse the best possible feed. You're going to want to do foot care the way, the way nature would do it, and all the rest of it. So I think that's really important, because you can't have you can't sort of want to have connection and all that sort of stuff, and then not be aligned in that through everything that you do. So I agree 100%. Delete Facebook. That's number 2. I'd be like, delete Facebook. Oh God,
just the groups.
Don't
I think
post
just the
in
groups.
the groups on Facebook.
Yeah, but I think, and from Peter and I's perspective, we have to walk the talk as directors of Sen as well, because we're preaching a very pure and raw diet to our horses that has no unnecessary ingredients, no added sugar, and we've got to do that in our own lives to even say it with conviction for our horses, and even human health, rider health, trainer health. When you look at your horse and you look at humans as well, we're both mammals. When I've studied the blood for humans, studied the blood for horses, same parameters, just different sizes within the blood. And if you break it all down, and it's music to my ears when you're going to tell me about this app after we get off this call, because I've really stripped the processed crap, or you could say it is crap, in the diet, and really zeroing down onto being more pure in that sense. And I feel better mentally and physically, as well. Absolutely. As just one of the most important things we have to recognize if you want to go down these nutritional values is we learnt a particular way in life to eat, and more importantly, we have to unlearn this and then relearn those values again that are aligned to what we're thinking for our body to help support it better later on in life. And I recently turned 40 years old and I am getting on, but I'm trying to really zero in because I don't want to play catch up when I'm in my 50s or 60s, because that's when it gets even harder. So staying active, but then cutting out the unnecessary ingredients and those unnecessary things that try and, I guess, heighten the risk of issues occurring later in life. And yeah, I know some things can be genetic, but when you look at epigenetic studies and the way we're looking at nutrition and the way it's evolving, I think if you can take the steps for yourself in terms of, looking at what your horse eats and then looking at how you sort of reflect that, I think that says a lot about aligning yourself and what we've just touched on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Tanja, I think I'll let you go. It is about lunchtime. So I think, hey, can you name the app for our listeners, if that's okay? You should be getting you should get a cut for if you have to purchase anything.
Yuka. YUKA.
Okay.
Yeah. And the picture of it is a little carrot. Yeah, you can just download the free version and you just hold the scanner over the barcode and it tells you. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think we will wrap that up, and I might check my lunch lunch ingredients when I get off this. But yeah, thanks so much, Tanja, for being on this podcast. It is Australia's leading horse nutrition podcast on Spotify. If you really enjoyed it, definitely hit those 5 stars. I think we're nearly up to 100 5-star reviews on there, and that really helps get that exposure out there. But I think, was there any final words, Tanja?
No, just looking forward to meeting as many people as I can at Equitana and hanging out with you guys.
Awesome. We'll see everyone there, and we'll have another podcast to you next week.